Hey everyone, it's Mr. Wild194. I hope you're doing well today. I have a book review here for a series that I've loved up until this point, which is kind of a hint as to where this review is going. This is a series called Death Note, and this is the Black Edition number 4, written by Tsugumi Ohba, and the art is done by Takeshi Obata. I always forget the name. I always try to say Ohba and Obata on the opposite person's name. Anyway, Volume 4. Now, why is this called Black Edition? Well, apparently it's 2 volumes in one. This one includes 7 and 8 inside of it. It's a pretty big book, closer to 450 or 500 pages, somewhere in there. It's a big manga book, and like I said, it is manga, so you have some awesome art in here that I love. Where do I even start with this? I guess I'll start with, since this is the first Death Note volume I've reviewed for this channel, at some point in the future I might review some of the previous ones, but I don't know. I'm kind of hands-off about that. I don't really know how you guys feel about that or anything, but for right now I figured I would give my general thoughts on the most, in my opinion, controversial book from the series, because it's been so long since I've read each volume, because I had to take like a year-long break, because the first 3 volumes really stressed me out. They're really, really crazy, thrilling reads that have so much happening in them you don't even realize until you read those books. So, Volume 1 through 3, probably 5 out of 5 stars for the first 2 volumes, at least a really high 4 out of 5 for Volume 3, because it was starting to get a little bit sluggish, but it was still really great. But, now we're in Volume 4, which again includes Volumes 7 and 8 of the regular manga. This started out really good. And I'm going to get into fairly tiny spoilers about the end of Volume 3, because I think it's necessary when I do each book review of a series to cover the previous book just a tiny bit. In the previous book, we had one of the guys, I think his name is Higuchi. I'm really bad about the names of the guys in the group that work with Light Yagami, the main character, and Ryuzaki, the L character, the guy from the computer. And I'm really bad about the names about the guys in the group. I like the writing of them, I like their banter, their jokes when they have jokes, I like their personalities, but it's the character names, being an American and an English speaker only, that I have really big trouble trying to keep up with. So, I have struggles with that, but I think the guy's name is Higuchi, or something like that, some kind of Gucci. Basically, he was in a situation at the end of the first book where he was driving a car in a speed, and, he got pulled over by the police. They realized it was him. And it's kind of a bait, but kind of not. I don't want to get too far into that because of the previous books and what was going on there. But let me tell you this. I felt like we were starting to rush what was happening with the books, because I was thinking, how do I have 3 more volumes at that time before I had read this volume, Volume 4, and then Volume 5 and 6 were on the way too that I had bought. I was thinking, how are they going to keep going with this? How are we going to expand the story out more? Because it felt like it was getting to the end of the story, and I was kind of antsy about that, like what could possibly happen? I did not know about the massive controversy in the fan base of Death Note, especially with the manga. I don't think the TV show ever went this route, but in the manga there is a big debate, and it starts in this volume here, roughly about halfway through. And I'm not going to spoil any of that, but I will be very, very vague about it. About halfway through this book, something happens involving the big drama between L and Light Yagami, our main character, and their struggles about L not knowing that Light is the serial killer using this thing called a death note where you write somebody's name in it. They die based on how you wrote whatever their name was in that notepad thing. L, doesn't know about all of this stuff going on about the demons. He suspects that that's a thing with Ryuk, and he suspects all of that's real. But about halfway through this book, it's like we start the whole series over again. It's like a total soft reboot to kick off the series again. There's this big time jump, and I mean a big time jump. Like, I think it was 4 or 5 years, something like that. It seemed to be the worst possible choice to go instead of just ending the series. I'm hoping that Volume 5 and 6 make up for what I read in here, but Volume 4 to me was a massive disappointment halfway through because of what happened and the choice made for this series. I can only imagine what people thought when they first read this chapter that I'm referring to that basically was the soft reboot back in the day. I did not like that choice at all. I thought it was a terrible, terrible choice, and again, I hope that the broadening of the spectrum of what happens from that point onward with this soft reboot going on, I'm hoping that Volume 5 and 6 can save that, because the latter half of this book again, it felt like starting over. It felt like going back to the beginning of Death Note, knowing everything that was going to happen, and having to read through it again without the excitement this time around. It was a terrible-ass choice in the way that I feel like ruins the series for me. And if I do remember, I think the anime, ended with what was the beginning of the soft reboot for this book. I am just dumbfounded. I'm not a fan of what happened here. And to be fair, at the end of the review, I always rate the books on a 5-star basis. This could possibly change if Volume 5 and 6 improve upon it. But after reading this book, I saw so many people complaining and bitching, whether it be on Goodreads or anywhere, about what happened here and how stupid that idea was. But I have to be so careful not to spoil anything for myself. Just like I have to do with any manga that I read, any Dragon Ball Super or Dark Dai, or Dai Dark, excuse me. Anything I read I have to be super careful about because of the possibility of somebody ruining it for me. But Volume 5 and 6 have a lot of work to pick up to make up for this book. Yes, I love the characters. Yes, I care about the characters, even after the soft reboot of the story. But something horrible happens to one of my favorite characters in the story, in the Death Note saga up to this point, and it really pissed me off a lot. Not just because I love that character, it wasn't that kind of thing, but it felt like a cheapo Game of Thrones kill-off type of mentality, that we don't care what we do to this character, it's for shock value. Well, that was a stupid-ass choice, because now your audience feels like you started all over again. And it really pissed me off. This book also feels way more talky than the previous volumes. I don't know what it is about that. Maybe it's the soft reboot mentality. I noticed it was even more so in the latter half of this book. Death Note is a very dialogue-focused manga, or comic, whatever you want to call it. But this particular one just, I don't know. There's something completely off about it. I feel like Tsugumi Ohba and even Takeshi Obata as the artist, I feel like they made a horrible choice here. I really do. I blame Tsugumi Ohba more than I do, I keep having to look at the names, Takeshi Obata, but as the creator, I think this was a massive misstep, man. I don't know what the fuck happened here, but it just, I don't know. Not happy about it at all. Death Note Black Edition Volume 4 sucked ass, in my opinion, after that first quarter or half of the book or whatever where the soft reboot begins. If you have read Death Note, or if you know what I'm talking about, this big controversy, kind of keep it on the down low down in the comments, to not spoil too much for anybody. But dude, let me know what you thought about it if you're a big fan of Death Note. I have bought the show because I was so in love with the first 3 volumes of the series and the first half or so of this book. But I am so put off with what I read in this book that even though I read this at the end of 2023, that stress, that panic that I experienced at the end of every single book and during every single book before this is gone. I kind of just want to go ahead and read 5 and 6 to get them over with, and that's not a good mentality to feel when you go to pick up a series. Especially a series that you loved, that now has lost its gloss and its glistening, you know? I feel like an asshole for not liking this volume, but dude, unless 5 and 6 manage to switch things up and really do something special, I don't like the direction we're going by the end of this book. I just really, really don't. And again, even the broadening of the spectrum of what the events are that are going to happen, that are currently happening at the end of this book, I know it's being very vague, it's probably an obnoxious review because of that, but because of that broadening and kind of the new people that come into play in the story, I don't like them that much either. Not as characters, not as icons of the series or anything like that. I am not down for where this is going, so hopefully it gets better. We shall see. But at the end of the day, Death Note Black Edition Volume 4, aside from a rambly, nonsensical to anybody who hasn't read the series review, I would give it probably on a 5-star basis, maybe a 2 out of 5 stars. The art is really strong, the storytelling is really good for like the first half of the book. That soft reboot has potential, but right now I am not liking the shit that happened in here. It felt way too Game of Thronesy to me. And I haven't read Game of Thrones, I've only seen the first season of the show, but I experienced enough of that there for you to understand in my analogy of where I'm coming from, of just random shit happening to try to throw some shock value at the audience, and I feel like it was to the detriment of the tale without just ending the story in the best possible way. I know how Death Note is probably going to have to end with Light Yagami's story, but I do not like where we ended with this book. I just don't. I think it was a massive misstep, like I said. But anyway, have you read Death Note Black Edition Volume 4 or Volumes 7 and 8 of the regular manga? Do you love it? Do you hate it? I'd love to hear everything you have to say about it down in the comment section down below. Let me know all your thoughts, dude. I would love to talk to more people who know more about Death Note and the controversy I'm talking about, because this seemed like the thing that split the fan base right down the middle back in the day. I never knew much about it. I had heard a little thing here and there. And, well, here we are. I'm finally experiencing it after being so involved and so in love with the series for years now, like I said, because of how stressful and just thrilling the series was. And I feel like they threw that out in the trash at this point. Anyway, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I can look back in hindsight, the future reviews of 5 and 6, and tell you, hey, 4 is better than I thought it was. I don't know, man. I don't know, though. Anyway, what do you think? Do you think I'm going to like it better by the time 5 and 6 end? I'd love to hear all of that down in the comment section down below, too. Anyway, 2 out of 5 stars for me. Thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all, and goodbye.